This is Take Flights with Mark Whittle.
Bella, welcome to the Take Flight podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, honestly, really excited.
Oh, thanks for coming down. We're in Soho Radio. You
Very
approve?
cool here.
Yeah, you happy?
Love it. 70s American vibe. I'm all over it.
Yeah, and you're saying it's your day off today?
Yeah, day off today. I usually do 4 days a week. So today is my day off and tomorrow actually, so I can go wild.
Amazing. What are you doing tomorrow?
What am I doing tomorrow? I'm actually going to an awards tomorrow. It's called the Asian Sport List, which is a bit like, I don't know if you've heard of the football blacklist. It's a bit like that, but sort of the Asian counterpart. And last year I was up for an award. So you don't win an award, you're named on a list, basically. And I was named on the list for the broadcaster section, which was really nice. And we did a Zoom sort of ceremony, if you like. But this year, everyone who won last year is going to collect their awards as well because of COVID. They couldn't have a ceremony, so they're having a little do tomorrow. So it's on a boat, so that will be fun.
Amazing.
I know.
So last year you were named on the list for Best Broadcaster.
Yeah,
Nice.
one of, yeah.
Amazing.
So it's quite, it's quite nice.
Cool. Are you up for anything this year again?
No, just going to collect last year's award. I don't want to be too greedy, just the one is fine.
So Bella, what does your week consist of? I've never spoken with a broadcaster in the sense of, I've spoken with presenters and people like Jeff Brazier and who do, but like not in your sense.
Yeah.
It seems quite intense. But what does a week look like for you?
It is intense, and a lot of the time when I tell people that I do 4 days a week, they're like, oh, that's awesome, you get 3 days off. And also the days that we work, in terms of when I'm in the newsroom or in the office, it's not as long as a normal office 9 to 5, so that it feels like, oh, that's so chill. You've got a shorter day and you've got a shorter week. But it's really intense. Because it's a 24/7 job, really. And I say job, but a lot of it isn't like work. A lot of the things that I do to prepare for work is what I would do even if I wasn't working at Sky Sports News. For example, I watch sport all the time. So Sky Sports News is just the background in my house. It's always on. And that was before I worked there. That was when I was growing up as well, in my mum and dad's house. And if I'm not watching Sky Sports News, then I'll be watching football or cricket or, whatever it might be. So that part of it is prep for work, but it's also what I would do in my downtime anyway. Maybe I watch a bit more because of work, back-to-back games. Sometimes my husband's like, oh, really? We're watching 4 football games in a row. But so in that sense, that the prep side of it is quite a lot. But then we get to work early in terms of knowing what's in the rundown, liaising with producers. There was a period where we're doing our own hair and makeup, so that takes a lot longer as well. So 4 day weeks, and generally I do the early shift, which means we're on air at 7 a.m. We get in for 5 a.m. for production meeting, and then we're off air at 10. We have a little debrief, and then people say to me, "Oh, you're done by 10 o'clock. You're home by 11 o'clock. That's amazing. You've got your whole day." It's like, yeah, but I was awake at 3 a.m. So it can be exhausting. Doing the early shifts are not easy. And I don't have children, but I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends who have babies, and they say nothing prepares you for sleep deprivation. And it's a little bit like that. I don't want to liken it to having a baby, but just the focus that you have when you've not had enough sleep, all of that type of thing. I'm just reaching for any like bad food for that energy. So it's just about getting into a routine that's still healthy and can help me to be at my best at work. That makes sense.
I have so many questions.
I just went into a bit of a monologue there.
No, it's amazing. I mean, I do want to come back to more of like what the working week, how it's like spread out and stuff, but it's so fascinating. What caught my attention straight away is like the intensity of your energy output. Because so this, for example, as well, or like when I do a coaching session, it's very intense one-to-one, like extremely focused work, which is the same as what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So the challenge is to be able to perform optimally, like with whatever energy that you have.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you do that? So let's say you're up at 3. How do you feel when you wake up? And then what are you doing in order to prepare yourself when you get there?
If I've had enough sleep, so I try to go to bed early, but the thing is, usually there's football on the night before, or often there is football on that I will want to watch. So it's hard. And so sometimes I'll say to myself, okay, I'll watch the first half, and then at half time, I'll watch a bit of analysis, and then I'll go to sleep. But if it's 1-1 and I know that it's been such an end-to-end game, I'm like, oh God, I have to watch the second half. Or sometimes your adrenaline is so high because you're just like, you know, if it's an intense game, or so sometimes I don't go to bed early enough, in which case I'll wake up in the morning and it feels like, sometimes I feel like, oh, who's calling me in the middle of the night? And it's not, it's my alarm. I need to change my ringtone because my ringtone is the same as my alarm. So that's why I think that. I think, who's ringing me in the middle of the night? And you hit snooze, and you might hit snooze again, and then I think I really need to get up now, because it's not fair on the rest of the team if I'm a little bit late. So the production team get in even earlier than the presenters, and they work so hard on putting the running order together that I feel I have a responsibility to them as well. So I'll get out, you know, there are times when you have enough sleep and you feel good and you just spring out of bed. And at the same time, I do have this thought, and I know this sounds quite cliche and a bit cringe, but sometimes when I'm feeling a bit like, oh God, it's so early, I just think to myself, like, when you get to work, you're gonna love it. Like, I love what I do. I love my job. So I just have that in my mind. I just think, just get up and get ready. So I get up. I'm like, once I've had a shower and I've had like a coffee, I feel much better, and then I'm just ready to go. And then so I get into work for 5. And you say about the energy levels. Even though the production team have been there even earlier than the presenters, they always, there's such a good camaraderie for the early team, especially, I think, because you're all in it together. And you also have a co-presenter in the mornings as well. So we're both in at 5. So there's people around, and and that just lifts already. You're a team, and there's always like jokes, we're always laughing. It's never just head down, everyone's tired and sluggish. Even though people are tired, we make it fun and there's energy. And that can be whichever team is on the breakfast shift, and usually whichever co-presenter as well. So that makes it really fun. And, you know, it helps when you like the people that you work with, and that you actually are on good, like, friendly levels. And then, you know, it doesn't feel like work, and we're all in it together, like I say. And then when you're in the newsroom, our studio, as you might have seen, is in the middle of the newsroom. So you're already there when you get in, and it's like the lights are on, you can see the big Sky Sports News splash at the back, you know, the desk is there, the cameras are there, the monitors are there, and it's just like you start to feel ready already.
Yeah. Gearing you up.
Exactly.
So the alarm goes off at 3, and you essentially are like channeling, you're telling yourself for other people as well, but also for yourself, like, you love it.
Yeah.
You love it.
I do. And that's the thing. I feel so lucky to be able to do that. Because as you probably know, like, this is my second career. So it feels even more special to me that I managed to switch careers and still get my dream job. It wasn't something that I had to work from like 16, you know. In a sense, I feel like I've always been working towards it. But I feel so lucky that having started the journey later, I still managed to get there, which is where I wanted to get.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. Like, I've been so fascinated doing the research on you and your story. I think, yeah, I can't wait to hear. But before I ask you more about because that's like that, our leap of faith, right? That's what I want to share as many times as possible and encourage other people to believe, at least, that they can do the same thing. I think yours might be one of the best examples of that we'll hear. But before that, so you were talking about the team. I just think that's so interesting. Like, I've made this transition myself that you're going to share in a moment about leaving the corporate world and going full time with this. That's the thing I suffer with more than anything, is being by myself. Right. Because you said you step into there, the lights are on, the camaraderie, the energy. Like, I missed that when I stopped playing football, like, more than anything. But I had it in a business environment with sales and that sort of stuff, and it kind of like was similar. Yeah. And now being on your own, it's really, really hard. But like, obviously I love it, so you can channel that energy again. But I'm quite extroverted and get it from other people. So I think it's interesting that you said that. Yeah. No, I agree. Like, I think different people work in different ways, and I have enjoyed, you know, sometimes having a task to myself and just getting on with it and getting my head down and focused. But I'm a bit like,
yourself. I think, you know, I thrive off of other people, and that's why I do like working solo shifts, but I prefer when I have a co-presenter because, you know, it's just that energy.
What would you So what would you say to people who struggle getting up in the morning?
This is a very good question, actually. I've tried a lot of things to help me with sleep. I can imagine. So I've tried sleep sprays where you spray on the pillow and you get that nice like lavender and it helps you to relax. And that actually, I felt like that did work, but I feel like they all work for a bit and then I just become immune to them. Yeah. I tried a sleep balm, which you like put, you know, like it's like a cream, like a moisture. And again, it's got that same, like, it's the relaxing scent. I've tried sleep, it's this thing called DigiPill. I don't know if you've, so it's like it's almost like a guided meditation, and there's different versions, but there's a sleep one as well. So I've tried that and I actually really like that one.
So are you listening to with
so
the headphones in?
I just put my phone, put it on my phone, and I have that on, and it's like got the music, and you know, he's got a lovely like Irish accent and he talks you through. But then sometimes I'll get to the end of it and I'm still awake. So I feel like sometimes these things work. So I also tried a weighted blanket. That did not work for me.
How is that supposed to work?
It's supposed to make you feel like you're cocooned, and also because you can't move. you can move. But again, you know, so I have like tried a lot of extremes. Also, like my husband, like if I'm on an early shift, I'm like, you just have to sleep in the other room because I can't like deal with the snoring, and even if you like move a little bit, I'll wake up and then I can't go back to sleep. So blackout blinds, that's another thing. I've taken this to like the real extreme. But I think the best thing, and this is just like the most simple thing, is to switch off from everything about 45 minutes to an hour before you go to bed, phone away. And I put my do not disturb on my phone now so that I can't, and the light is down so I can't see any notifications coming through, anything. But I do allow like emergency calls. So I've set to like, so for example, you know, when my mum wasn't well, I've set like, so she can still call me, that type of thing. And then just like a cozy environment, and just have that time like to yourself to just like wind down completely. And sometimes like even like a warm drink as well. And that is like the most simple old school thing of just like, you know, just relaxing before. Yeah. And I found that that's the best thing. But like I said to you, if there's football on, it's really hard for me because I want to watch it. And if I don't watch it and I have a great sleep, I'll get to work, but I won't have known anything that's gone on in the football. Then I'll watch all the highlights, you know. But sometimes not everything's in the highlights. They might show you the you know, the tackle that was controversial, or the goals. But what about like the little incidents that you might not have seen, or you know, the little to-dos between opposition players, that type of thing. I love all of it. I love the whole of the experience of the game. I want to see the managers shouting like on the touch. I want to see all of that, and you don't get often all of that in the highlights.
That's so interesting, like the highlight reel. It's like social media, isn't it? It's what so many of us see, that kind of those people's peak experiences, and that's all we're allowed to see, especially with highlights. This is controversial and you're probably not going to like this, but as a like very passionate football fan for all of my life, and sport fan in general, but football was my main one, I'm a highlight watcher.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it's partly because I'm an Arsenal fan, so I don't like watching.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's torture. But yeah,
that's interesting.
Maybe it's also because I've got a young girl.
It's the time.
She's 16 months old, and it's like, so my kind of heaven is on a Sunday morning I have a coffee and I put Match of the Day on. And that's my peace and quiet.
No, I think that's different because you're consuming a lot of content there. All the games, and you're getting them, you know. But what I mean is, like, if there's a big game on, say there's a Manchester derby, I want to know every little thing that's happened in that Manchester derby. And not because I have to know it for work. I just want to know. Yeah. Or, for example, like when, you know, I don't know if you saw the game like with Aston Villa and Manchester United, when Cristiano Ronaldo was like being urged like to take, Emi Martinez was saying, take the penalty, Cristiano, you take the penalty, you take the penalty. Like, that sort of drama is what I live for in football. And every time I've watched that clip, I'll see something new in it that I'm just like, oh, I just love it. And I don't know if I would get all of that, you know. So it's I have to weigh it up. That's the thing. And sometimes I will watch it I'll watch the game. Sometimes I'll just say, you know what, I really need the sleep. But you've just had a little baby, so maybe we can swap some sleep tips.
So shall I give you some sleep tips?
Please do.
Similar to you, actually, I think the most profound thing is just switching off and allowing yourself, because so when we have the blue light, you all know all about this, the blue light suppresses our melatonin release, which doesn't allow us on a chemical level to get into a sleep state. So we're getting into bed like awake because we have this blue light and serotonin in our brain, which is then making us, it's obviously making us stay awake. So switching all that stuff off is great. Not watching anything like too intense, like I find with sport. Like if you're watching that right before bed, I get anxious sometimes watching, because I'm just like I feel myself in the situation a lot of the time, and you're like,
and then it's hard to come down.
Yeah. So that's just being cautious of that. That's, you know, I do actually like watching. The one benefit of Arsenal not being in the Champions League is that I watch as a neutral.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That's quite nice. Chamomile tea, it has like an extract. I'm gonna butcher this. I've forgotten. It's called like arginine or something like that,
right,
which is a relaxant. So that's, people talk, oh, chill out, you know, the Eddie Hearn meme, go and have a chamomile tea or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like there's actually science behind chamomile tea. But you're right, every time you try something, your body adapts to it. So you have to kind of, so then I'll go through, I'll have CBD. I went through a period of like really getting on well with CBD. Now I don't feel like it really works that much. I've changed, and now I take magnesium. That seems to help.
Yeah.
I've got this balm at the minute as well, like you put it on your pulses and all that. So I don't know, I think my trouble is never getting to sleep. It's like I wake up at like 3-4 in the morning and I can't get back to sleep.
Agree. I have the same issue. Sometimes I can fall asleep fine, and then it's waking up, and then once I'm awake, I'm thinking about everything. What I've got to do, what I haven't done, all the things, you know, anything that's like makes you anxious. And they do say that shift work is not great for that, in terms of you can get paranoia, anxiety. These are all symptoms of shift work, especially when you've had lack of sleep and early shifts. Which bodes really well for me, doing the breakfast shift. But I just think you learn to adapt, and also you have to find time to really listen to your body. So like in terms of even like with my diet now, I feel I don't. So my husband has been on some like very extreme diets in the past. He's been like Atkins, keto, like these types, and they are quite brutal. But I practice like intuitive eating, so I really listen to what my body wants, and that has not been easy to sort of like, and I still don't think I'm fully there, but if I need something, I'll have it. And if I feel like I need, you know, so there will be days where I'm just like, I'll only need a salad for dinner and that'll be fine. But there will be days when I'll need burger and chips, and that will also be fine. There'll be days where a protein shake, I'll have that, and then I won't even have lunch because I'm just like, I'm fine. But then there'll be other days, you know, where again I'll like, I just fancy like some crisps or chocolate, and just listening to what and I feel that really works for me. And like at different points in the week or in the day, that helps me. I don't know if it's an actual thing, but it seems to work for me. I
absolutely love that you said that. What are the signs for different? So when you're listening, what is it you're looking out for?
It is just like the cravings. I will actually feel like, and I think it's because I'm a real food person. I love food. I love talking about food. It's all I think about. People at work say to me, you talk about food a lot, because I just love it. So I want to know, what are you having for dinner? What are you going to have for dinner? Or I'll say, what did you have for dinner last night? Or are you going to have a snack when you go home? Like, what snack will it be? I just want to know, because I'm one, nosy, but two, I just love the patterns as well that people have. Because with shift work, like I say, it's different, you know, it's not really like breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's quite varied. So it is the cravings. Like sometimes you just want something like really like refreshing and that'll be fine. And other times I want something more like warm and comforting. And so it's like trying to listen to those things, but, you know, trying not to also do things like stress eating and, you know, trying to like keep it balanced. It's hard, but I feel like that works for me. In that way, I'm never craving something, because I let myself have it in moderation.
It's so interesting, because I know exactly what you're talking about. That intuitive feel of, I actually just need a piece of toast with jam on it or something, you know, or
That's it.
or right now I just want like a crisp, clean apple. Or,
Yes, exactly that. Exactly.
I have it with it's when the body just starts to know what's right for it or what's good for it.
Maybe.
I do cold showers, and it's just got to the point where it was horrendous at the start. I've done them for years now, but it was horrendous at the start. Then your body adapts and acclimatizes, and then it wants it because it knows it's good for it.
Really?
So in the morning, I'm like,
Every morning.
Every morning. Although I did post this morning, I was like, these are feeling quite cold now. 'Cause it's changed now. It feels a little bit colder now. It's October, but yeah.
So you only have cold showers?
I get in and have my normal hot shower.
Okay.
Yeah, and then for the last 2 minutes, I'll turn it all the way around to cold and just stand in freezing cold.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it's like, I love it. I feel so alive when I get out.
Put that on your hair as well? Like,
yeah.
Oh my
well,
God.
I wash my hair like, we talk hair routines, why not? So like every 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
So when I wash my hair, then I'm going fully, yeah.
But you still will put the cold on?
Yeah. That's my favourite bit. I love it. It's like you
Really?
full shock. And sometimes I think...
Good for your skin though, isn't it? As well?
I think it's good. Yeah, it's good for your skin.
You
It,
have
like,
got good skin actually.
Have I? Thank you. Thank you.
Interesting.
Could be also the infrared sauna I was talking to you about. That is good.
We're not currently sitting in a sauna, just FYI.
As much as it might look like it. But yeah, like I love that because I don't think you just have it with food either. Your body will tell you when it needs to get into bed. Your body will tell you like who it wants to spend time with. Like if you really start to listen to those things.
I'm all about that as well. And I think as I get older as well, and also in this industry that I'm in, this is going to sound funny, but you know, I really listen to like the vibe and the energy that I'm feeling. And if I'm not feeling it, I really listen to my intuition now. Whereas maybe when I was younger, I would doubt it and you would go along with what everybody says is the right thing or the right person or, you know, the right group or the right thing to do. Whereas now I listen to my intuition because I know if I'm feeling that something's off. And it might not be off for everyone, but it's off for me. So I really do like notice people's energies, and that is one thing that I will say that I feel like I'm a good judge of character, and it's because I really do pay attention to how somebody makes me feel in their company. Or like if I go away and I've had like the best day, I think, what did I do today? Why has it been so good? And I think about who I've spent time with or who I've spoken to or like who's messaged me. Like sometimes if you get a message on your phone, it could be like WhatsApp, Instagram, whatever, and you actually physically smile. Yeah. And sometimes my husband says to me, oh, what are you laughing at? And I'll take note of that. I'm like, oh, this person has just messaged me and I really pay attention to those things. Or on the other side, the flip side, what doesn't make me feel good, or you know, when do I come back from a meeting or a dinner or a lunch and I feel drained from energy, or I feel anxious, or I feel anxious going, then I know I shouldn't be going into that environment. There's a reason why. Again, it's this intuitive feeling, isn't it? My body's telling me this is not good for you mentally. I'm not benefiting from it. Whereas some things I know that this is going to make me feel good, and afterwards I feel like just lighter and happy.
When did you start noticing that you could pick up on these sorts of things?
Only in the last maybe 5 years. Yeah.
And out of interest, when did you become a presenter and get into journalism?
So I changed career graduated into my new career in 2012.
Okay.
So do you know what? I think it might be linked to this career because it is a very competitive career, industry rather, and it's competitive. Everybody wants to be doing the big jobs, and there is a lot of competition for it, and you do feel that. Some newsrooms can be quite toxic environments, and that's another reason why I'm so grateful for where I'm working now, because it's so different to that. It's like one of the most welcoming places I've worked, and I didn't think it would be. And so it's just exceeded my expectations so much. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be tough and competitive, but actually I feel really like warm when I'm there. And if I go on holiday now, I'm ready to come home, go back to work. And that, most people when you're on holiday, it's like, oh, I wish I could stay. I wish I could stay another week. Oh, I've got to go back to work. I don't feel like that. I look forward to it. And sometimes I you know, I think, oh, like, I'm even when it's not like I've been on holidays, I look forward to going to work, and that's because of the environment. But it can be that, you know, I have worked in places where I have felt that anxiety, and you feel like people are waiting for you to make a mistake and that type of thing, and it's a bit toxic, and it's actually come out physically. Like I remember like getting like this like rash on my hand. It was really strange, and I had no reason for it. I hadn't used any new products, you know, went through all the list of everything, went to the doctor, and the first thing the doctor asked me was, are you stressed at work? And I thought, that's a really weird thing to say, because one, she doesn't know where I work. I've not mentioned anything about the fact that, you know, I might be stressed at work. She said, that's what it is. And it happened on 2 different occasions, separate from each other, but it was both the same reason, because I was feeling stressed and anxious at work, and it physically came out into my skin like as an eczema, and I've never had it since. So it's really bizarre.
I wholeheartedly believe in those, like that our emotions are what dictate like health and energy levels and everything. And I was just interested to know whether the link was when you were, because really what you did from, and we're going to move on to your career from like law to what you do now, but that's listening as well. That's intuitively listening to what you really want to do. And not many of us are courageous enough to actually listen and pay attention. And then the bigger part, which is actually take the action afterwards. What was your upbringing like? What was it that led you into law? Like, what were your kind of like early years, family life, and then what kind of built your goals and your dreams and aspirations, and like what then led it into a legal practice?
It's funny because, you know, there is a stereotype with like Indians that, oh, doctor and lawyer, like it's like, or accountant. And a lot of people think, you know, because a lot of Asian parents are like quite, you know, they can be quite pushy. This is like the traditional stereotype of, you know, they want you to go into these like high powered professions, and, you know, they can be like quite forceful in that sense, and, you know, education is key and this type of thing. But it's actually funny because it's so far removed from my situation. And a lot of people think that, oh, were you a lawyer first because your parents wanted you to be, and then you did your dream job? And it was like, no, if anything, my parents were the ones who encouraged me to change career and do what I wanted to do. Because when I was younger, I loved law. Well, my mum said to me that she knew like I would be that something to do with, you know, that type of thing. Because she said, you just had an answer for everything. She said, even if she said, you know, we'd be having a discussion, and she goes, you would be able to convince me that you're right, even if you were wrong. She was like, I just knew like she's going to be some sort of negotiator when she's older, because she's just got the gift of the gab. And I think I get that from my dad. My dad is like very much like that. He's like a proper, you know, just a lad, you know, like he's got the gift of the gab. He's friends with everyone knows him, and he can like talk his way in and out of anything. And so when I was growing up, I used to love legal dramas, TV programs, films. I used to just be obsessed. And I used to watch, I watched that film with Tom Cruise, A Few Good Men. I don't know if you've seen it. So the courtroom drama. And I know that I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a lawyer. That's what I want to do. And so then I went into that field, because I just knew, like, I thought it was a good match for me as well, with my own skills, and I thought this will be good, and this is what I wanted to do. And I was just so determined to do that. But having said that, there was another part of me that when I was younger, I was like 3, 4, 5, I used to make like cassette tapes. Don't want to show my age here. So like cassette tapes of a radio show, which was like my radio show. It was called like Bella's AM Music. Nice. And I was the host, but I was also the singer. So I would introduce music, which would be me singing the music.
Amazing.
And I used to also do the news. I was just everything. It was like, and my mum still has those tapes. And she says, you know, and she was like, you know, you were so extroverted, but she said you were so good at it. It just came to you so naturally. And, you know, I used to make magazines, and I used to make newspapers like from scratch. I would write all the articles. I would write the problem page, and I was very creative in that sense. But as I grew older, like I used to love listening to the radio, watching TV, like seeing these presenters, and I just didn't really think, it just seemed so far removed from reality that this could ever happen. Like, oh, I don't know, when I was younger, I just thought you need to know somebody, or like you need to be like your mum or dad would need to be in the industry for you to be able to, you know, get in. I like millions of people must apply for these jobs. There's no way like I could ever do it. But because I love law so much, I was like, you know, this is great. I'm going to follow this path, which is what I did. And I did love it. I did really enjoy it. And I was good at it as well. And I enjoyed so many aspects of it, but it was hard. It was really hard. And when I graduated from my undergrad degree, then I went on and did an LPC, so to become a solicitor. But to finally qualify, you have to do a training contract with a law firm for 2 years. And I just couldn't get one. And this is quite common. There's, you know, it happens to a lot of law students that they can't find the training contract because it's so competitive and there's so many students graduating from law and there's limited places. So I have a pile at home, which is like this thick, of rejection letters, which I used to just get. I start off with my like list of like, you know, my preference, and I would have like and I went through the whole list right down to the bottom where I didn't even want to work because I was just like, I just need to qualify, and I was just getting rejected. And one firm actually sent me 2 rejection letters for the same application. That was brilliant. I only needed one, thanks very much. So I thought, okay, you know what, I'm not going to give up on that. It's fine. I'll go a different route. So I started working as a legal assistant in law firms, and then that led me to ITV, and I got a legal assistant job there. So I still need it. I'm not qualified solicitor at this point. I have everything but, because I haven't done that training contract. And I was working in ITV Sport at this point. Absolutely loved it, because it was like, love sport, love media, love law. It was like a dream. Loved working there as well. And then I realised that you can actually do your training contract in-house. So if you've worked somewhere long enough and you've done the relevant experience, you can qualify with them. So I was like, right, that's my next goal then. I'm going to try and get it through ITV. And I did. So what they do is they send you out to 2 different law firms, because you can get specific experience in those law firms. And the funny thing was, 2 of the law firms that had rejected me when I'd applied on my own, because, you know, I wasn't good enough to get in on my own, but I managed to get in through ITV. So I went and trained at 2 top law firms, which I wasn't able to get in on my own, but it was just an incredible experience. And then did the rest of the training at ITV and managed to qualify as a solicitor. So it took me longer, but I did get there. I've still got all those rejection letters, that big pile. And I was clearing out my stuff at my mum's the other day, and she was like, are you going to get rid of these? I said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to keep them, because despite all of that, this thick pile, because if I am blessed to have children one day, I want to show it to them. I want to say, look, this, you've got to persevere. You have to, because it's not impossible. You can get there, and it might take you a different route. It might take you longer. And it did, because when I was at the law firms, you know, a lot of them were straight out of uni, so a lot younger than me. But I had a bit more life experience, you know. I knew how to answer a phone and talk to somebody on the phone, or how to write an email. And, you know, a lot of them were fresh out of water. So I don't regret doing it that way. It taught me a lot of lessons, I think.
How can we have the perseverance in the face of that rejection? Because rejection's like a horrible thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a nice feeling to be literally like typed up but told you're not good enough, essentially.
Yeah.
So how can we better cope with rejection? And also the follow up to that is also like, what allowed you to then think creatively and find another route?
I think my mum and dad have both very like supportive people, and also of that mindset that if something goes wrong, or for you think something's gone wrong, it's not the end of the world. There's always a way out. There's always a way around or a way out. You just need to look for it. You just need to think in a different way. Like, look, okay, this has happened. Let's break it down. And what can you do next? Where do you want to get to? Right, it's not just one straight path to get there. There's lots of ways to get there. And it is within yourself to do it, but you just have to dig deep sometimes. And yeah, of course, there were times when I thought, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever going to do it? But if you don't try, like, you're never going to know. And I just think having that support from my parents and that belief as well gave me so much belief that I'll definitely get there. And then there may have been points where I just thought, oh God, you know, am I going to? But they were very sort of fleeting. I would always say, no, I will. And it took time, but it almost made the qualification even sweeter at the end, because it was like, I know that this has not just been handed to me, or, you know, and there's nothing against people that get there the first time. I mean, that's amazing if you can. But that extra adversity just made it even more rewarding for me, and just like the extra lessons that I learned along the way. And I do think that is down to like my family, because my family have had like a different sort of, they've had a lot of issues in themselves. Like my mum was born in Uganda, so she was there during like the rule of Idi Amin. Wow. So she had to flee Uganda, and it was pretty bad. When she tells me about those times, and you just think it's just unimaginable what she went through. And also, like, she was an orphan by the age she was 16. So I just think if she can overcome that, you know, there is, and that, the lessons that she learnt from that as well, I just think, you know, I can cope with this.
She gave you such strength from that.
My God, such strength. And she's like so strong. And even my dad, like it's not, his upbringing was not difficult in that sense, but he was one of 9 as well. And he's always worked so hard. Like he's, ever since like I was growing up, like 7 days a week, always worked 7 days a week. Now he's cut down to 6 days a week. Like, it's just like, he's like, I'm cutting back. Oh yeah, you're cutting down 1 day. Like, this is still not normal. And I think I've always seen that as well, like that hard working. You know, when I was younger, he used to work like Monday to Saturday, and then on a Sunday he would do a market. So at Blackbush Market in Camberley, he would like they'd sell clothes. Him and his brother would have a market stall, and I would go with him. And so I would get up at 5 in the morning. I think I've always been destined to do earlies. This is what's happened, isn't it? It's all from then. I'd get up at 5 in the morning. I still remember I had this like Forever Friends bedroom. Like, my whole bedroom was Forever Friends. Like bedclothes, like wallpaper, clock. And I had this Forever Friends clock. And I remember like waking up and just looking at it, and it's 5 o'clock. And I just think, oh God. But then I'd like get out of bed, love it. He'd be like, come on, like, you know, get ready. I'd get ready, go in the van, go to the market, help him lay out the stall. And so he used to do it with his brother. My uncle had a daughter, same sort of age as me. She used to come as well. We used to, you know, go and get the teas. They teach us about selling, about the prices, right? If they want to buy 2, this is what you do. Like, and taught us all about that. And, you know, we'd have lunch together. They'd get us an ice cream on the way home. Be a long day. We wouldn't get back till maybe like 3, which is like, you've been up since 5, you know, at that age. Got school the next day, and then we'd get like 20 quid at the end of the day, and you just feel like, yeah, I've really earned that money. Like, you know, you've worked really hard all day. But it's seeing that, I think, and just and it wasn't like, oh, you know, come on, you've got to do this. I wanted to go, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that they've instilled like such good value. I literally owe everything to them, to my parents. Like, I know a lot of people say that, but I just think even to this day, like, the lessons that they've taught me, it just, I hope that I could share that with somebody one day, like even half of what both of them have taught me.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. It's interesting though, there's 2 parts, because the literal inspiration and strength and all that stuff that you take from seeing what they're like, the hard work, and you know, you don't always have to see it, you can just hear the stories, like from your mum, right? You can hear what she went through and be like, wow, you got through that, you're my mum, I'm you, like I can do that then. Like, that's how we make that translation, which is amazing. Also being taken to those markets and experiencing that, like I often look back at my paper round at 12 years old, or like my pot washing jobs and that, and these are what allow me now as like 33 to get through shit admin days, or like struggle through things that aren't fun. Yeah. Because you've done it since you're like that age. Exactly. Which is really nice. You mentioned about how you mentioned if people just get there in one go, like that's fine. There's an ancient Stoic philosopher called Seneca who said he pities those who haven't faced challenge, because you never know your own strength.
This is so true.
So everything that we get, like all those setbacks, like getting knocked back, that's our education. Like that's what that's what toughens us, and we build skills for everyone. Like, as you're telling that story, I was just smiling and thinking how amazing it is. All those rejection letters, like, you needed that to. It's easy now on reflection to go, well, those were great because it got me into ITV Sport and I was exposed to the thing I loved all along anyway, which has led me to where I am now. Awesome. But at the time, you're like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And it's hard because every time you get the letter in the post and you think, could it be this one? And then it's like, oh, it's not this time. But you just keep going. And I think, yeah, what you said about those people who get there in one go is, I don't want to take anything away from them, because had I got there in one go, I would have taken it as well. But you're right, the lessons that you learn, it's invaluable. You can't teach some of those things. It's just the experience that you've gone through. And I do recognise that in other people as well. You know, when I've seen somebody else who's gone through a challenge, I know what it's like. There's, you know, lots of other little things in my family that have happened that make me realise what's important and what isn't, and also how to get through a situation. And like you say, you don't realise how strong you are, because we are all very strong, very resilient, but you don't realise until you're put in that position
Tested.
where you've got no choice but to be resilient.
What you said, there's lots of things that have happened in your family that have taught you what's right or wrong. What's been the standout, and what has it taught you?
I think, you know, like there's been moments in my life where, like, my mum and dad have actually got a strange story in the sense that they were married for so many years and then they got divorced and then they got back together and they got remarried. So, and it was just because of like challenges like that my dad was facing in his life, but had they not done that, they would never have been in the position they are now. So, but it's just that unconditional love, and I think showing me the importance of of what a unit is, and just that feeling of like having someone there and like the support regardless. So I think that's one thing. And, you know, there have been times where like my family didn't have much money, and it was different for me because I went to a private school. I went to a private primary school and I went to a private secondary school. The private primary school, my parents had to obviously pay for it. You have to pay tuition fees. For the secondary school, I got an assisted place, which isn't a scholarship, but it's like your grades were good enough and your parents' income was low enough that you get some help towards the fees. So my situation was very different to everybody else who was at school. You know, I was living in a normal house. My parents were like low income, working class parents. But the students that I was with were, you know, very different, off the scale, like they were living in mansions with swimming pools, and, you know, the parents were like CEOs, and so that was very interesting. But it was a really good experience for me to see that side, but also appreciate what I had as well. So you do, it's that feeling of like fitting in, isn't it? And I never felt out of place there. That was the thing. I never felt like I'm not good enough to be here. And that was because of how I'd been brought up. So it wasn't like an arrogance thing, but it was just be yourself and you'll be fine.
That's resonated with me so much. I never felt like I necessarily fitted in at school, even though I was in the football team, popular, and from outside in, but I don't think it necessarily encourages people to be themselves at schools. We have to fit into this education system, and I imagine a lot of people will resonate with what you just said there, because if you are being yourself, you're standing out, aren't you? You're sticking out from what everybody else is taught what to do, really. So it's so hard to struggle to do that. How can we be ourselves?
It takes a lot of bravery and courage actually to be yourself, because often, like you say, I think it can be not the norm to be yourself. I recently, last week, went to the Attitude Awards for Attitude magazine, and there were so many powerful speakers from the LGBTQ+ community. And one thing that most of the people that spoke on stage said in some form or another was how much they love those awards because it allowed them to be themselves. And that, in a way, like really upset me, because I just thought they don't feel like that all the time. A lot of the people in this room don't feel like that all the time. And whether you're from the LGBTQ plus community or a different minority community, or even if you're not, a lot of us don't feel like we can be ourselves all the time. But when you do get that feeling, when you do find that self-confidence, or you'll feel like you're supported or in a safe space to be yourself, it's so liberating. And I think it only comes with experience and confidence you can do that. And I don't think I fully am all the time now, but definitely more than I was. And being able to speak out on things when everybody else thinks it's fine, I think, and I've done that before. And I have done that growing up, but at sort of more of a minor sort of level.
You mean like like speaking up morally?
Speaking up morally,
yeah.
When you think something's wrong, even though everybody else or even if you know that some people might think the same, but they keep quiet. I've been in morning meetings, for example, in a newsroom where I don't agree with what's being said, and I can see that a few other people don't agree as well, but maybe people don't have the courage to say it. And there's been times when I've spoken up and said, I don't think that's right, and I don't agree with that. And that takes courage because of sometimes where you are in the pecking order, in the hierarchy, especially in a workplace, the respect that you're meant to have for your peers. Well, you should have respect for your peers, of course, but respect maybe in the hierarchy, levels above you, that type of thing. But actually, I've only ever been rewarded for it, in the sense of people have said, you know what? Yeah, well done for speaking out. And there's been times when they don't agree with me, but they've said, it's good that you voiced your opinion on that. But it's scary. Like sometimes I'm like, I remember once where I really didn't agree with something and I spoke out, but I was so nervous about doing it in an environment where there was a lot of people around. And I remember my heart beating really fast. And it wasn't like I was about to cry, but I felt like, like my voice was like trembling. But I thought, I have to say something here. And if I don't, then I'm not being true to myself, and it's not fair. And I always go back to like my star sign, because I'm one of these people. I'm a Libra.
Okay.
And it's all about balance and fairness, and injustice to me is like the hardest thing to take. I'm like such a stereotypical Libra in that way, where if something's not right in that sense, unjust, I really struggle with it, whether it's on me or somebody else. I can't watch it. I can't see that happen in front of me and not say anything. So, speaking out, sometimes it can be really difficult to do it, and it doesn't make you friends sometimes. But it makes you feel better. It's always made me feel better that I'm glad I've done it.
The scariest thing to do is to speak your truth, if that's what you want, your genuine truth. Like, I was so terrified last week at my event, because I decided I was going to share my journey of leaving the corporate world and talking about how I'd lost my sense of self and all that sort of stuff. And that's because that's your truth. You're being honest about yourself. Yeah, it's personal. So it's scary to put that out there. So I can see like that. I can resonate again with that feeling of like, like all those emotions that you've probably been holding in, and then you're like, I have to say this. But you said the word a few times, courage, because there's different types, isn't there? There's courage for ourself and our bank balance, and like, I'm going to start this business and make all this money, or like whatever you choose to do. You have to be courageous and brave in that sense. But then there's courage morally, like, I'm going to stand for what I believe in, and I'm going to make sure that I can look myself in the mirror tomorrow and know that I was in line with my values or what I believe in, whatever. Yeah. And it sounds like you do that.
I think that again is something else that I've got like from my parents. Like, my dad would never, like, they're very kind people, and my dad would, again, he's a bit like that. He would never let someone else be like bullied or in an unjust situation. Like, he just wouldn't stand for it, and no matter what it meant for him, he would always like stick up. And I think I've seen that, and that's something I really admire in him. So that's something that I want to do as well, and be seen and be known for, like an ally, whether I'm sticking up for somebody else or not, it's still important to me.
When we talk about a leap of faith in our life, these can be our massive turning points where everything shifts. And this is sometimes when we need the most courage, right? To leave everything that we've built up until this point and to take a chance on the unknown. What happened in the next part of your journey when you essentially left the legal career you'd worked so long to get into to pursue your dream of being in journalism?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I talk about how it took me longer and it took me, it was harder for me, and I really went through so much to get to be qualified. And then I said, see ya, to being a lawyer. I think, I don't want to say like it's the thrill of the chase, but I think part of it was that if you're rejecting me and you're saying I can't do this, part of me was wanting to prove that I could do it. I can do it. I can get there and prove it to myself, prove it to maybe all the people that rejected me subconsciously. I set out on this journey to be a lawyer and I wanted to finish it. But whilst I was at ITV Sport, like I said to you, I was in that environment, in the broadcasting environment, media, sport, all that type of thing. And I would find myself like in my spare time making writing down a plan. I always had a notebook, and this is like something that my mum always had as well. Like she always used to have a book, like a notebook, and she would always write down, like it was usually financial, like like your financial plan, like right, this is my incomings, my outgoings. There would always be a plan, and I used to do that. I used to write, okay, so if I could put this much aside, and then I could do a postgrad. I was in a lot of debt when I finished uni as well, because 3 years of undergraduate, then a year of LPC, which is not cheap. Then I did start work, but that was a lot of debt, which I only maybe finished clearing my student loan 2 years ago, which took me a long time. Yeah. So I thought, how would I do it? How would I pay for it? I'd have to get a loan. But I found myself like constantly making this, okay, if I carried on being a lawyer for this many years and then I did it. So I was making this like imaginary dream plan all the time. I was thinking about it. So you're thinking about this a lot and you're talking about this a lot. This is something that's on your mind that you want to do. If you're thinking, and I always say this to people as well now, like if you're constantly thinking about something, there's a reason why. So I spoke to my mum and dad about it. I spoke to my partner about it, and they said, look, you're qualified. You can always go back to being a lawyer now. No one can take that away from you. You've done it. So you can always go back to being that. If this is what you want to try it. And then if it doesn't work, go back to being a lawyer. If it works, great. So they were like, we can help you I was living at home. So it was like financially, in terms of I didn't have to pay rent. So it was like, okay, that was something. I got a loan out. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I quit my job.
How much did you get out on loan?
I got a loan for £12,000.
Really? So
I'd already paid my postgrad loan, which was, as in taken out my postgrad loan. And I got another loan out. And I was like, I'm just, they were like, don't let that hold you back. Don't let that be the reason why you don't do it. So yeah, So I applied to go to do a broadcast journalism postgrad diploma at the London College of Communication.
Wow.
And they said, just take it step by step. Don't think too far ahead. Make the application, see what happens. I got an interview. Right, okay. Went to the interview. Again, just think about that stage. Don't think too far ahead. I've recently started to play golf. And this is what my coach always says to me. Just think about your next shot. Don't think about the one after that. Don't think about the one after that. So it was a similar thing. Just think about your next move. Okay, went to the interview, got offered the place. Then I'm like, okay, but then how am I going to pay off the loan? How am I going to start? No, just, you've got the place, accept the place, do the course, then think about your next move. So to an extent, like I love planning. Like I've got the book and I'm making the plan at the back of the book. I love planning. And so, no, just my mum's like, just worry about the next step. So then, it was bizarre, and it was quite scary leaving ITV, I have to say. I loved my colleagues there as well. And I think it was also, I felt like partly a little bit embarrassed, like telling people what I was doing, because I just thought they're going to think I'm silly. Like, what's she doing? And even some of my family, like extended family and friends, I know they're all like, oh, great, good for you. But I'm sure like some of them had reservations, like, what is she doing? She's just spent all this time and effort and money becoming a lawyer, and now she's just throwing it all away. But I thought to myself, look, I've got to try it. And the people that mattered to me most were encouraging me to do it. Whilst I was doing my postgrad, I was just hammering editors left, right and centre for work experience, because I thought I need to hit the ground running. So I don't want to waste any time. And I do like little bits of work experience here and there whilst I was doing the course. And that led to like some freelance radio shifts, news reading. And I just loved it. And I thought, but it was hard. And there were moments when I thought, I'm a qualified lawyer. What am I doing? Like driving this many miles for a, 10-hour shift, which is going to pay less than what my parking is going to cost me and my petrol. There were moments where I was like, oh God, am I doing the right thing? But I just kept telling myself, you can do it. And I genuinely did back myself as well. I thought, I can do it. And I thought, I can be good at this as well. And I think that it's important when you do take a leap of faith and dive into something like that, know your strengths and know your weaknesses. There were things that I wasn't good at, and there were things that I knew I was better at. So I knew that like presenting and newsreading was my strength in this industry, and I knew that reporting was fine. I was okay at it, and I was okay at editing and making the packages and things like that, but it wasn't my specialist. So I thought, right, I haven't got time to like try and like finesse everything. I'm going to focus on one area. And so I did. I focused on the newsreading, the presenting, because that's what I really wanted to do. And every time we had a guest editor come in for like a talk or a day, news day, that is the area that they would put me in as well. So I was like, okay, these people who are in the industry are all seeing something, and they're agreeing with me that is the area. So I felt a bit more like I had confirmation, and I just really focused on that.
Really interesting. I spoke at a wellness festival a couple of weeks ago, and I spoke with a journalist who worked for the BBC. She was complaining. She was Asian and was saying that I've been sort of categorised in this news category I don't really want to be in, and like, how do I change and how do I get out of this category? And I think that that's quite an important point, is that fork in the road quite early on. You need to solidify yourself in there, because part of, as frustrating as it is, especially when you're trying to be yourself, you do need to build a story around who you are as well.
Yeah.
So because we have it in our heads figured out, right? We know what we can do. We know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But other people don't. So we need to formulate some sort of story around that, so other people can A, emotionally connect, but also B, see where it fits out in their story as well. And I was speaking to her, I was like, I don't think it's journalism. I think it's the company you work for.
Yeah.
It was the BBC who have put her in that category, right?
That's the thing.
But no, I think that's so interesting. So you did a piece of work where you figured out your strengths and weaknesses, committed into one of those things, and that's got you to where
some
you are.
people are, and nowadays everything's multimedia as well. Like, you do need to know how to do a little bit of everything, like online articles, reporting, presenting. So, and some people are great at everything. I don't think I'm one of those people. I think I'm okay at some things, but I know what my strengths are. And I always remember this conversation I had with my head mistress at secondary school when we were choosing our A-levels. And I had chosen, so my sister was very sciencey. She's an optician, and she did like maths, biology, physics, and got like 3 Bs. Like, she's very sciencey, very good. Well, so I've always been more artsy, like creative. I always love like poetry, writing, drawing, art, like fashion. I love it all. You sketch like fashion when I was younger. Like I said to you, used to like do this like Bela Shah music, make magazines. I've always been more on that side. And I went into the meeting about my A-levels, and I said, right, I've chosen English literature, English literature, German, and maths. And she was like, why have you picked maths? She said, you could do maths and you could do okay in it. But she was like, why don't you play to your strengths? You're really good at languages. Why don't you do, it was English, economics, and maths. And she was like, why don't you do German instead? You love German, you're good at it. Why are you picking maths? Is it because you think that's what you're supposed to do? And I was like, well, yeah, actually it is. She was like, no, like, you should go for something that you'll place your strengths. And that really sat going for what, instead of going for what you think is the right thing to do, or what everyone's doing, or what society is telling you is the best thing, play to your strengths. So I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do German instead. And so that was the situation for me for broadcasting as well. And I'm really glad that I did that, because I mean, now we do a little bit of reporting as well, but I'm a presenter, and I want to try and completely like finesse that, and that be my core strength.
You're amazing at it as well. I love watching you, and even like you'll have little laughs here and there. So you have yourself like comes out in your presenting. I love that. I don't know if that's like a conscious thing or if you're just.
I think that's come with like confidence, because it's always been there, but sometimes you just think you don't want to push the boundaries a little more. But then, the feedback I've had from my bosses and people I work with is like they love it. We love it when you've got your personality, because that's what makes you you. And there are some serious stories in sport that we report on, of course, but it's not really life or death. We're trying to lift people's spirits, and we want to be entertaining, so you can bring your personality out. So yeah.
What else makes a great presenter? So when we talk about, because as much as this is about purpose and like the leap of faith and doing what we really care about, it's also about performance. So what makes a peak performing presenter, or like what are the things that make you a good presenter, do you think?
I think being authentic, and again, not doing, this is a common theme of what we've been speaking about today, but not doing what you think you should be doing. And I always say this I get a lot of students messaging me, or who I meet at events and things, who say like, oh, how do I talk? How do I actually present? How do I speak? And I say to them, you don't need to be sitting in a certain way, you don't need to have your hands in a certain way, just be yourself. And you don't need to put on a voice either. Yes, you need to enunciate and things like that, but just be yourself. And I think that, like what you said, is like these little bits of personality that come out in my presenting. And that's what I think makes a good presenter personally, is one, obviously knowing your subject. You have to know your subject, do your prep and make sure, because although everybody thinks we have 100% on auto cue, that's very far from the truth. It's not like that, especially with rolling news. There'll be something breaking and you need to know the context behind it. You might only be told 3 words like Lukaku's had his medical. We're going to break it next. Right, well, who is Lukaku? What's his first name? Where's he going from? Where's he going to? He's been at Chelsea before. Know the context behind that. When did he leave? Who was he playing under? Who is he playing with? So and
you just have to freestyle.
Some of it you will have to freestyle, yeah. Some of it that will be information that you already know. Some of it you need to check. Like, can I find? If it's something like the Newcastle takeover, for example, you need to have known what's been happening before. So know your subject. You need to be prepped in that sense. Some things you can't prep for, so it is just that everyday knowledge and just being on top of everything, which is hard. But if you like sport, then it's should be fairly easy. But just be yourself, honestly. I just think otherwise we're just like gobs on sticks, aren't we? Like you have to have a bit of yourself and a bit of your own style to presenting, otherwise it's boring to watch for the viewer, I think. But
you've nailed it, because that prep, because like as boring as it sounds, like preparation is confidence, leads to confidence.
Definitely.
So then when you've got that, then it's so much easier to be yourself.
Oh my God, so much easier. That is exactly it. Because when you feel comfortable, that's when that comes out. And I think viewers can see that or hear that if it's radio. When you don't, that nervous energy, it comes out in your presenting, because I always say this, when I did my very first Good Morning Sports Fan, so 3 hours of live TV was my first 3 hours, and I came back and I watched it, like I put it on to watch because I'd recorded it, and it was so high pitched because of like how excited and nervous I was and all that adrenaline. It comes out in your delivery, everything, and you will just be a much better presenter if you're prepared. So I think that is definitely key.
I think a lot of practice as well. If I think back to episode 1 of this podcast, I planned every question to the T, and I like to the point where I kind of loosely know how they'd answer that. So then I plan a question,
right.
Love that. And then I put my quote in. I'm going to put this quote in here. And I go like, because I was like, worst case scenario, I will just literally follow this question and it will sound loosely natural.
Yeah.
Then no one else will know. But now I write down, literally, I haven't even opened my book.
No, your book's
today.
not even within reaching distance.
So I've had like 10 questions on there, loosely knowing what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
And actually, you just completely derailed me after the
no.
first one.
I always do that.
No, it was good because I was like, great, we're going in different directions. So, but now it's again like the event last week. I did prep questions. I didn't ask any of them just because of the way that it was floating.
Yeah.
And because I've had 4 years of practice of asking questions, I can now just like come up with a question and, like you said, quickly put some context, quickly throw in my 2 cents, and then tee them up to make them sound good.
Yeah. And you made it all feel very natural. Like, it doesn't feel like, I don't feel like this feels like a chat. And that's what it should feel like. Even when you're interviewing someone, this is what I say to people, you know, it shouldn't feel like inquisition, you know, they're in a police cell and you're just grilling them. But there will be times when you have an interviewee who might be a bit nervous, or, you know, and their answers might be really short. So then you'll be thankful that you've got that list of questions, because, you know, you might need to keep it going.
I actually had one recently. I won't say the name is. I'll tell you afterwards. But and it pissed me off because I was like, it's this first time it's happened in ages. I was like, if you don't want to be here, then just like, and it was frustrating.
Yeah, that is frustrating.
But I think, like, again, that's my own ego. I should have just been like, this is the situation now, just let it go and do your best. Where I was just like, oh, you don't want to be here. Okay. Whereas,
Stand off.
Whereas you're like so easy to talk to. Obviously you're a professional at this anyway, which makes it easy. But like from the first moment you walked in the door, like I felt your energy very quickly. So it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
so thank
same.
you.
I felt exactly the same. Like what I was saying to you about like judging people's vibe and energy, it often comes right at the start, and you can gauge it right from the start. I don't often feel comfortable talking about myself because you say that, oh, you're a professional at this, but I talk about other things and other people and interview other people, and I'm the one who likes asking the questions. So when you're doing it about yourself, it can feel a bit unnatural and, you know, tricky, because you just think, oh, what am I going to say? And like you said, I'll go off on a tangent, you know, I won't stick to like the topic, but it just feels very easy.
Good. What's been your highlight? Or like highlight moment and favourite person that you spoke to?
Highlight moment like of my career? Okay, favourite person that I spoke to was Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank.
Really? Nice.
But this wasn't actually in a professional capacity, because so I'm a Chelsea fan, and I like used to just love like watching like him and like Idaga Johnson, you know, and then
Glory days.
The glory days. I was in the makeup room, and this is just before we've had makeup artists back, so everybody's doing their own makeup, and he was in there because he was he was a pundit for there was the EFL show or something. So I walked into the makeup room and I'm doing my makeup next to Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, which was just bizarre. But like, we just had a chat about, you know, when he found out I was a Chelsea fan, and we were just chatting about those days, and he was telling me about how like now when he turns up to five-a-side and, you know, he's like, yeah, I'm not what I used to be. And I was thinking, imagine if Hasselbank turned up to a five-a-side. I'm pretty sure you're still better than everybody else who's there. And we were just talking about, you know, the partnership with him and Ida and the relationship, and that is like when it sort of hits me just how lucky I am, like people that I've grown up watching, like just getting to have these like behind the scenes chats with it, even my fellow presenters, because like I said to you, like I've always watched Sky Sports News, so being like sometimes like I'd be sat next to Jim White, he's not there anymore, but you know they'd be counting us down to on air, and I would just have this like out of body experience where I'm just looking at the studio around me at the seat that I'm in. Like I've watched people present from this seat and I'm sitting next to Jim, and it just used to feel really surreal, and I just think, wow, I'm doing it. And so those are like real highlights for me. And I think one of the main ones, which I talk about a lot, is deadline day, because that is such an exciting day, and it always has been for me as a viewer, and it's something like me and my dad used to watch together, and then to be a part of it and to be presenting on deadline day is so fun. And it is how the viewers see it. It is like chaos, so many people are in, it's like all the revolving door of just like guests and pundits, and it's so fun and it's exciting. But
all of your sacrifice, all of your hard work, all the rejections, all those turns, like I try, me and a friend, we say like there's no right and wrong, it's right and left.
So
it's like
true.
those decisions that you make, so all
true.
of those faults that you went off on, have led you to being able to have the deadline days.
Yeah.
The out of body experience is like, wow, look what I'm doing.
And this is what I say to my husband, like, whatever happens from now doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it matters, but to an extent, I've done it. I've achieved what I set out to achieve, because when I started this switch, he said to me, where is your ultimate place that you want to work? And I was like, well, he said, no, all barriers aside, don't think about anything like, oh, how achievable it is, you know. If it's Good Morning America, just say that. And I said, look, I would want to present on Sky Sports News. I was like, right, okay. Now you've got something to aim towards. And so I feel like now, whatever happens, I did it. Obviously, I want to stay there. But I just think it's a lot of people don't get to achieve the dream job. So just grateful that I've managed to do it.
No, congrats. It's amazing. I've loved hearing the story.
Oh, thank you.
I think as well, like, last thing for me before we ask the quick fire 3 at the end is I think it's so important what you just said there, sharing the Jimmy Hasselbank story, because we don't often even think that those moments are going to happen. They're bonuses. Like I'm thinking back to my event again last week. My 2 peak moments of the whole evening. One, my mum is like athletics mad, and I got to introduce her to Asher Phillip and Richard Whitehead. And she was just like in her element. So like I hadn't even planned that or thought that would happen, or you know, that wasn't even that. That was just a bonus. I was like, Mum, I've got to introduce you to them, because they were on the panel. And the other one was at the end of the event. I was stood there with George Groves and with Thomas Robson-Cano, and they were kind of like going back and forth. Thomas talking about how, as a footballer, it's the team first. He wants to win the Premier League regardless. Right. And George's mind being blown, saying, like, I don't get why you don't just want to score all the goals and be number one. Like, don't you just want to score the goal? It doesn't matter if you win or lose, because obviously solo sport.
Yeah, exactly.
And I stood there in this conversation, like similar to you. It's like, what is going on? Like, this is amazing.
At that moment, you felt it.
Felt it. I was like, again, because it's one of those, it was a surprise and it took me by surprise. I was like, this is so good. You can't foresee some of these, and we have to really like cherish those, I think.
Oh, definitely. And I think because it's so fast moving, and like what you're doing as well, like there will be so many things that you've achieved that have just passed you by, and it's not until you actually stop. And like someone asked me like for a bio the other day for an awards thing I was doing, and I had to actually write down what I'd done, and it's not until I wrote it down that I actually thought, I'm quite proud of a lot of these things. Because we keep going, don't we? You're just like constantly going, and life is moving so fast. Sometimes you don't stop to think what you've done and like appreciate. So those moments when you're on stage and like what you've achieved and you'd made all that happen is really special.
Don't pat ourselves on the back enough, do we?
No, definitely not.
Last 3 questions.
Okay.
So these are quick fire. First one is one thing that you're particularly excited about. However you translate that, like one thing you're excited about. You might have discovered it recently. It might be a program, a book. It could be anything that's happened, something coming up. One thing that you're particularly excited about at the moment.
Women in sport.
Nice. Yeah.
Definitely. Like just how much we're covering it at Sky is, you know, it's on par now to the men's football. Like, you know, it's not an afterthought. And I love that. Like in terms of the content, in terms of the commentary, the pundits, the guests, reporters, behind the scenes. I just think it's just moving up and up and at a rapid rate. I want it to keep going, but it's doing great. It's
so amazing, and you're doing your part with that obviously as well, with like a woman in presenting. Like it's so key. I've got a daughter as well, so I love like being like, wow, she's being born into a world where it is on par. I think Fran Kirby is going to come on the podcast as well.
Oh, amazing.
So, I'm interested to hear her perspective on that too.
That would be great.
So number 2, one habit that you would recommend to all listeners.
Appreciate each moment. Like what I was saying to you, is that a habit? Does that count as a habit, do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's like a gratitude.
A gratitude thing, because like I was saying, things move so quickly. You miss it. You miss moments that are going, and so appreciate where you are at that and get what you can out of it. Like make the most out of each opportunity and appreciate what you're doing at that moment, because it will teach you something. It might not feel like a good experience, but that will still teach you something. So appreciate it. And
is that like taking a step back in these moments?
Definitely. Definitely. Okay. And it's hard to do that because, you know, we all get so engrossed in what we're doing that you don't take a step back, but just take a step back and appreciate where you are and what you've done.
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. Last one. Take yourself back to a particularly challenging moment. It might be some adversity. It might be right before your leap of faith, or one of the 2 or 3 or 4 that you've done. Imagine there's 2 versions of yourself, right? So there's 2 Belas.
Okay.
There's the one who's sat opposite me now that has achieved all the great things that you've done. And there's one that didn't do any of those things, didn't have the courage or whatever it is that you needed in order to get there. What is the key trait in the Bela sat opposite me that allowed you to get to your dream of being on Sky Sports News and being the presenter?
It's the resilience. Yeah, just being resilient, because you're going to have knockbacks. I mean, not everybody does, but most people do. There's going to be knockbacks. Not everyone's going to like your style. Not everyone's going to think you've got potential, but keep going, because somebody will. And if you work hard enough, I know, like, people say this a lot, but if you just keep going, just stay focused, you will get there. Your path's not going to be the same as everybody else. So we look on Instagram, or we Google, we Wikipedia people, like, oh, how did they get to where they're going? And I think that is a good thing to do, to see like the different routes, but don't think that there's only one way to get there, because there isn't. And just be resilient, be focused, and yeah, you'll get there. You will.
Thanks, Bela. It's been amazing.
Thank
I loved
you
it.
so much. I've had such a good time.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry for like talking a lot.
That's amazing. Thanks so much.
No, thank you.
Oh, that was awesome.
So
Fucking
fun.
hell. Sorry, I went on way too longer.
No, sorry. I feel like I just went off on a tangent a little bit. Maybe like
I had like, as soon as you started talking about like the energy thing, I was like, oh fuck, like this is so amazing. I could have talked about that for like 2 hours, honestly.
I know, it's just
when you said it, like you know, so you know, you're saying about how you can feel it. You said it. I said, because you know, I said I was tired. Immediately felt energized. I felt like my heart was just like, I'm so fucking connected to this chat now. I was like, I'm in.
I know.
But yeah, it was amazing.
It's so
Thank
good.
you.
No, it's just nice to like, when you meet people like on the same sort of mind and like mindset and same sort of flex as you. I think you can feel that.
Yeah.
And like the energies thing, but
100%. Honestly, like I felt bad because I was really low energy when you got here. But like when you walked in, I was like, I just knew. It's hard to explain it though, isn't it?
It's so hard to explain. And I think some people just don't get it. If they don't feel that, then they don't get it, because you've never experienced it. I got the same thing the other day when I went to the awards thing.
Yeah.
And I was on a table with Fleur East, who I did this golf challenge with.
Yeah.
But I met her sister. I mean, Fleur's great. And I was sitting next to her and I had the same thing, like instant connection.
How cool is that?
It's so good.
I was talking about this the other day. Like, I played football sometimes still. I miss it. I can't play properly anymore. I'm too old. But I'm not too old. I'm too broken.
Yeah, injured.
Yeah. We play for this mental health charity. It's like me and Marvin Sordell. Do you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And in fact, Sky Sports News did a thing on our first game.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Oh,
we had
what?
like a little bit on.
Oh, I didn't know. Were you on it?
I was like background. I was like, come
my
on,
God.
man. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. That was my first.
Because we've done quite a bit of stuff with Marvin.
Yeah,
like
he's
generally
amazing.
He's
like,
great.
He's a really good friend.
So
So he was another one, right? He's now I'm really good friends with him. Like we connected like how we did, and it's just really nice. Same with Angus. It's all the same vibe. But yeah, so what was I talking about that football match?
Because you were playing football the other day.
Oh, that's yeah. So, and like so there was 15 people there in the game the other week, and I'd not played for a few months. But there was one guy who I just clicked to straight away. He was like one of the better players on the team as well. And it's just you go into one of those situations, you're always going to connect with like, maybe it's 1 in 10 or 1 in 16 or 1 in whatever, who you, for some reason, whatever it is, you just get on with that person.
Yeah, definitely. That didn't feel like however long it was.
I know. I was,
like when you looked at the thing, I was like, oh no.
I looked down, I was like, fuck, it's been an
hour
hour
I was
already.
thinking, oh no, like I need to just
I'm not also about the whole point of the thing of leaving the legal practice.
Completely went off.
No, but I just have to do another one.
That's what happens when you're when the interviewer becomes the interviewee. Like you just go off track.
No, you're amazing. You need to share your story far and wide.
Well, look, thanks so much for having me.
No, I'm so pleased we did it. Genuinely.
Same. It was really fun.
Yeah.